Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the Chef Yusuf Show, where we learn to cook the Islamic way. Today we're making a New England clam chowder soup. This is the white, delicious, creamy soup. And the interesting thing about the soup, it will allow us to review everything we learned throughout the series. So let's go ahead, inshallah, and get started. Right, New England clam chowder is different from the Manhattan because in Manhattan they use tomatoes, and this is the only rule in the soup that we do not use tomato. It is the white, creamy, delicious soup. So, if you live near the ocean, if you live near the water, you have the opportunity to go fishing in the summer and dig the clam. If you are able to dig the clam, it is a wonderful ingredient to have because it couldn't get fresher than picking your own food. Wallahi, I'm serious, it is a gift that people who live in near the ocean to get to pick their clam. It is a fun thing to do, and especially a fun family time. So what I have here is the actual clam already cleaned. We already steamed them, and we learned in the fish episode that, you know, to open the clam, we only cook it with a little bit, maybe 1 or 2 minutes, it will open, and we'll open that broth, that water, that flavorful water is what we're gonna use today. This we saved, and we're gonna use it for the clam. We call it clam juice. And the meat itself, you can go ahead and chop it. If you have rough and big chunks of muscle, you can go ahead and chop them. The lean one, you can use them as well. Now, the other thing is, if you do not live near the water, you always can use one of these cans, chopped sea clams. You know, you can buy this, and you also can enjoy the wonderful recipe. One of the things that interests me about this recipe, I'm gonna go ahead and do it the classical style as much as I can, that they use bacon, right? And I wanted to show you, although I don't like to cook, I don't like to mix the meat, the farm animals with the fish animals, but I decided to go ahead and use it because it is classical, because it talks about bacon. And bacon, you know, it's like when you tell a Muslim halal bacon, it's like kinda, it doesn't make sense, as if you're saying halal pork, you know, because bacon is actually a flavor, and it is not a ham product. It is not a pig product. That's what I'm saying. So get yourself one of the halal bacon flavors, maybe the beef, the turkey, whatever, and, you know, go ahead and chop them. Okay, after you chop them, go ahead and add some flame. After we have some flame, what we will do is we'll go ahead and cook the fat out of the bacon, and this will give us our oil. You know, if you need more oil, you would have an olive oil in hand. We'll keep that at the side, and we'll see how much oil is extracted from the meat or from the bacon. All right, after cooking the bacon a little, we have our classic Merepoix, but this time we are not using carrots. Remember, Merepoix is a combination of an equal amount of celery, carrots with twice the amount of onion. We have our onion, we have our celery, but instead of carrots, I'm using corn. The reason for this is because the red carrots, it tends to give it color. So we'll go ahead and use corn instead, and corn will substitute the sweetness of the carrot. Everyone has a unique characteristic. Onions are savory, celery are salty, and in this case, corn is the sweet substance. So go ahead and add it. And as I mentioned, we're gonna learn some of the things we learned throughout these episodes. We learned the concept of Merepoix, and every time when we make broth or sauce, it is used. It is a French invention of taste that will come together. Also, we learned the concept of roux. Making roux is what will thicken the sauce. It will thicken any sauce. And to make the roux, you combine equal amounts of fat with equal amounts of starch. Over here, I have some starch, I have flour. And in this case, I did not start with butter because now we are advanced. We are using the fat of the bacon itself to mix it with the starch. So keep an eye on this. If you don't see any fat, if the flour is taking over everything, so this is where we're gonna add additional olive oil. So we have our olive oil in hand, and we'll add some olive oil. This will balance the mixture of roux, mixture of flour and the fat. So you add it as much as you need it. and you want to cook the roux, you want to cook the flour to remove the strange starchy flavor that you have when you mix flour with your soup. Now, is that a rule? No, it's not. Actually, a lot of recipes that you find, you'll see people adding the flour on top of the soup and then allow it to thicken this way. What do we do when we make roux? We add oil, we add some starch, and we shock it with some cold liquid. In this case, we have the clam juice, clam juice. Okay, and as the longer it simmers, the longer it gets thicker. We have some potatoes here. They will go ahead and add the potatoes after. Now here is the quiz question for you guys. Now, we learned in previous episodes that adding the potato or the starch of the vegetable when we made vegetable soup, that the vegetable itself can thicken the soup. So why did we add the potato and we made the roux? Is it possible to bypass the roux? So basically we didn't make the roux, we just add the potato? Yes, of course, and the potato will use its starch to thicken the sauce. And this is actually the classical recipe, the authentic recipe. They do not use flour. Instead, they use potato and oyster crackers. This is the same concept of crushing the bread on top of the soup. It's used to call tharid back in Arabia. And the Prophet ﷺ favored that meal over other meals as mentioned in the hadith. So this is how we are learning how to cook. Now the potato and the roux, both of them are thickening agent. The corn itself is a thickening agent, so everything will start to thicken. Now we'll put our flavor herbs. So we have some flavor herbs, some bay leaf, some thyme, some maybe some cilantro, some thyme. We'll add it, and we'll add any of our red peppers, any spices we like. We have cayenne pepper. Cayenne pepper is the heavier or the spicier one. Why didn't we add the clam yet? Remember in our previous episode we learned that cooking fish, you don't want to overcook fish because it will become more dry. It will extract the flavors out. This is why we're not cooking the oysters. We'll put the oysters in the end when the soup is almost done. And technically, when it boils, when it starts to thicken, this is where our soup is almost done. So we'll go ahead and season it with some salt and pepper at this point. And even we should have done that before when we were frying the base vegetables. And the pepper itself, I like to use white pepper because of the white color of the soup itself. I tend to like to use, you know, for the creamy sauce. I don't want to spoil the creaminess of the sauce as much as I can, so I add white pepper. Let this simmer really slowly. This is a slow cooking soup that we want to allow it to cook and extract all of the flavors. Now, these are the basics, the real basics. Corn is even actually optional at this point. I didn't have to add the corn, but if you have frozen vegetables in your freezer, one of these bags, you can add those as well. You know, allow them to cook, let them simmer. And I want to say that adding cream, if you add the cream, you do have to use the soup before it goes bad. If you don't have the dairy product, it will last you weeks and weeks. And this is very useful if you make a lot of quantities, if you have a restaurant, or if you just cook for a lot of people as a professional cook. Technically, we are done here. We'll just add some of the oysters at the end. I just want this to simmer even slower. All right, they are already chopped oysters, so I'm not worried about it. Let them cook, but do not overcook them. Okay, so what are the common mistakes that people make? Number one common mistake is people add water. Water is the flavorless liquid on the universe. I think in the universe, I'm not sure, but in the world, at least in this earth, it is the flavor. Why would you want to use water? Use the clam juice that you use to open the clams. The other mistake that some people do is they add 10 tablespoons of flour after a while it's boiling. You know, you add it, it's almost like a dough. So if you add 10 tablespoons of flour, you know, you're crazy. At this point, let's go ahead and remove some of our herbs that we added, like the bay leaf. Let's go ahead and remove this, and just want to mention this again, that this is your base soup. Put half of this, store half of this in the refrigerator. It will last weeks. As soon as you put the cream, it will become something that is dairy, that will have to consume real quick, a few days maybe, or it will go bad. Now add as much as cream, as creamiest as you wish. The temperature of the soup is going to go down as well. The more you add, the creamier it will be. And again, if it's too runny, go ahead and make additional roux. Add the roux with it. It could be like a bechamel, you know, using the same sauce. It will become like a bechamel sauce. You add it, it will thicken. If you like to try the taste of the raw flour on top of this, you can add as well. But this is my version of clown chowder soup, New England style. This will conclude our fish recipe. If we do have more time, we'll go ahead and make the Manhattan style. But really, technically, instead of using the cream, instead of using the roux, we'll add tomatoes, and it will become a clearer reddish soup that you enjoy, which is a little bit different in style, different in taste. Okay, as we simmer more and more, as you can see, the soup is getting thicker and thicker. Let's go ahead and turn the heat off. This is too thick. I think it's nice thickness it has. So let's go ahead and plate this. Get yourself a bowl. I like to use the darker bowls for the white sauce soups. There you go, and we'll go ahead and use the clear bowl as well so you can see through the bowl. Now another thing that the restaurants do, that they will go ahead and have a big roll of bread that will carve inside, and they will add the soup with the bread itself. This is also beautiful, and this is one of the tharid classical recipes. Tharid is the method of crushing the bread on top of the soup itself. This is used to be used back in Arabia, like a few thousand years ago. It was very common, and it was the favorite dish of the Prophet ﷺ. So how does New England style clam chowder relates to that is because New England clam chowder is classically eaten with oyster crackers. So you go ahead and crush some oyster cracker on top of this. So this is the Tharid New England style. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. We'll talk to you next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.